63 years of independence, 63 years of promises, 63 years of patience. It's time for governance now. Governance now. Let's make it work.
The second point that comes in, and the second reason, is more practical, and that's what I hope every reporter here will also understand. We live in a highly competitive world out there. In that highly competitive world, access is the key. Access, many of us believe, comes from proximity and personal relationships. And this is happening at various levels. Look at what is happening in political journalism. The editors who speak and call for resignations on air. Will some of those editors publish in their newspapers an anti-left article? Why don't they? Because their ideology tells them to. There are others who will only publish right-wing articles. Why don't they publish the other side? Because their personal ambitions tell them to. What has happened to so-called lifestyle journalism? It's basically sponsored deals where you're an extension of a larger PR machinery. What is it about film reviewers who give 5 stars to every movie? Because they are flown in and given special treatment and are shown a preview in Dubai. Look at the way in which film stars are covered. Look at the way business is covered now. When you do an interview with a businessman, even if you're a leading editor, you'll do it in a supplicant way, where the businessman becomes an inspirational figure at the end of your interview. Are we willing to challenge that businessman? You won't. And that's where the point which Minal Pandey says is relevant. The ownership patterns are relevant to it. But the solution is not this old world that having an IPO means you're necessarily bad. In fact, I would flip it around, that an IPO at times can give you the power, in a sense, at least to hold your own against the outside corporate world. When was the last time we seriously examined corporate corruption? The last journalist-driven investigation against corporate corruption was early 1990s, when the Harshad Mehta scam happened. The practical necessities are that in a competitive world where proximity is critical and access is critical, you want to interview the Home Minister, you better be nice to him, only then will he come into your studio. And therefore you won't ask him the tough questions often that he needs to be answered, that he needs to be asked. And if you're a reporter in the field, you find it more and more difficult to actually challenge those in power. I think the real question is the co-option of the journalist. Our traditional image should have been adversarial. We have got co-opted into the system. And why have we got co-opted? Is A, because conceptually we've changed. B, the practical necessities. Ownership patterns. Look at the way in which competitive media demands a certain proximity to those in power. The way ideology and individuals, in a sense, compromise. And then look at the ethical challenge. The final challenge at the end of the day is a moral, ethical challenge. The ability to say no, the ability to draw a Lakshman Rekha. There's no point being self-righteous and saying, and hand-wringing. The world has changed. In this changed world, how much are you going to compromise and where are you going to compromise is the key. Some of us compromise much more and turn into, as I said, political fixers. Some of us compromise less, talk to a Neera Radia on phone, humor her, but at the end of the day, I will concede Veer Sanghvi's point that he must be judged by his journalism. He must be judged by what he puts in his newspaper. If you can then also prove that Neera Radia flew him somewhere, gave him a hotel trip, did that, fair enough, go for it. But why don't we ask the same questions when lifestyle journalism has been doing that for 20 years? When all that has been happening on page 3 is junket-driven journalism? Why is it that the political journalist or anyone in the position of those tapes, I believe, must be seen to have a quid pro quo before you accuse him and prove him guilty? The ethical point, which is the final point I'll make, as I said, is about individuals at the end of the day. Editors, unfortunately, over the last 20-25 years, and we know there's a rare exception, who's been more than willing to have his resignation in his pocket every time he's been not allowed to write what he wants, have compromised. And I find it ironical that many of those editors come on our TV channels today and ask these kind of questions with a self-righteous outrage. It angers me, because they were the people responsible for the rot in the profession today. They bent when they were asked only to crawl. That's the truth. We mentioned paid news. A year ago on the Editors Guild, we asked editors to take a pledge somewhere that they should be ready, at least in their own individual capacities, to resist proprietors who would want paid news without norms of disclosure. You can have disclosure, you will have focus, you'll have it in Outlook, you'll have it in CNN, IBN, you'll have it anywhere else. Vinod knows that the marketing people will ask for their 4 pages of pound of flesh. It's a question of a disclosure. Were they willing to do that? We got about 18 to 20 of the editors only answering and giving that pledge. A majority haven't done so. It's required the Election Commission to intervene in the case of Bihar and actually work out with the guild some attempts to try and put at least some sense of responsibility in people on ground zero. But most editors haven't done it. Most editors haven't responded to the pledge. So we could have a code of conduct and we could devise it. But are editors going to be willing to adhere to that code of conduct? Are they willing to actually go through the pressures? I mean, I found it astonishing that even in one of the magazines, one of the editors says, I didn't ask the journalist concerned because I felt there would be too much of pressure. An editor is an editor to resist all kinds of pressures. Otherwise, he or she should not be an editor. That's the bottom line. I think the real challenge is ethical. There are ethical challenges that we all face on a day-to-day basis, and those challenges are getting greater as the Radia tapes show, because corporate India will do anything to subvert the system. These tapes are really about that. These tapes are about the subversion of parliamentary democracy and the possible co-option of journalists. I keep coming back to it. This glass is half full and half empty. If you see what journalists have done in the last 5 months, we have much to be proud of. Whether it's with CWG, whether it's with Adarsh, whether it's with 2G. And at this moment, for us to self-flagellate and look at, how terrible that these 2 journalists were talking to Neera Radia in this manner, how terrible that this suggests that we were a conspiracy to keep Radia. Do we seriously believe that Mr. Karunanidhi and Sonia Gandhi and Manmohan Singh would decide their cabinet on the basis of journalistic conversations? Where is the skepticism that should have been there in those magazine articles? I'm sorry to say this, but the fact is that in the last two weeks, what I've seen is a lynch mob. And I wonder whether the vanity of the journalists and the anchors, which is there and which needs to be controlled, is matched by a certain envy and a certain lack of understanding of what is happening in our profession. Any reporter day to day will tell you the pressures under which he is, where ideological and political, and I will ask you which is worse. I think we've got to ask ourselves. Corruption is of various kinds. It's not just financial corruption. There's corruption which is moral and ideological. And when newspapers and magazines blank out certain views, or when television channels believe in anti-national versus nationalistic, I think we should look at that as well. So I think a focused debate needs to look at all these issues rather than only single issues. That's all I'd like to say. Thank you.